Hello, I'm Kathy Evers, the First Lady of Wisconsin, and we, in partnership with the Wisconsin Historical Society, are here to share with you some of the incredible history of women's voting rights.
This is a ballot box that was used in Clark County, Wisconsin in 1915. And in itself, it's a pretty humble-looking object. It's recycled. Originally, it was used to pack axe blades. And yet, this box is one of the most important tools of American democracy. It had the power to change the lives of everybody in town. And in 1915, only about half of those people were allowed to access it. Remember that the fight for women's suffrage was a long struggle carried out through multiple generations of activists. In the 19th century, Wisconsin suffragists were focused on a strategy of getting the vote at local and state levels. Suffragists fought to convince their own communities, their neighbors, that they deserved the right to vote. This led to a partial victory in 1869 when Wisconsin women were granted suffrage in school elections. The reasoning behind this is that school elections fell within the traditional realm of wives and mothers. And at that time, most people felt that motherhood was the most important duty of women. So it was proper that women would vote in elections that would affect their children's education. In other words, women had partial suffrage, but it only covered issues that were deemed relevant to women. The problem was that even after partial suffrage passed, most women were still prevented from actually casting their votes in local elections. When they showed up at the polls, women were given the same general ballots as men, even though they were only allowed to vote on part of the ballot. If they voted on the wrong parts, then their votes would be invalidated. And that was if they were even handed a ballot in the first place. So in practice, even though legally they had partial suffrage, most women were still not able to vote. And that's where Olympia Brown comes in. She was a major suffrage activist, and she protested the unequal voting laws by filling out an entire ballot in one of her local Racine elections. And when her ballot was rejected, she took it to court. Now, the judge in Racine actually sided with Olympia Brown, saying that women should be able to vote in all municipal elections. But the judge's ruling was challenged by men in the community who were afraid that if women could vote in municipal elections, that would open the door to full women's suffrage. The case went to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. It was called Brown v. Phillips in 1888. This time, Olympia Brown lost. And the consequences of Brown v. Phillips had immediate, far-ranging effects. The state Supreme Court ruled that women could not vote using the same ballots as men. At the same time, legislators passed a law saying that separate ballots could not be provided for women. So, in practice, women went back to having no voting rights at all for about 10 years. Eventually, they did regain partial suffrage in 1901, but they wouldn't gain full suffrage until the 19th Amendment passed. Even though Brown v. Phillips was a legal setback, it didn't dampen the energy of Olympia Brown or the suffrage movement in Wisconsin. Olympia Brown drew attention to the fundamental injustice of partial suffrage laws. Suffragists didn't just want women to get their own separate ballots. They would keep fighting until women could stand in the same voting lines as men and cast their ballots in the same ballot boxes.
Join us in celebration on August 26th at noon. Ring a bell wherever you may be in celebration of this important step in voting rights. You can also wear white in peaceful celebrations as suffragists did 100 years ago. Show us how you are celebrating by using hashtag Women's Vote 100 and hashtag WI Votes for Women. Let's keep moving forward, Wisconsin.